Hey guys, I've had this 1965 Mustang for about 10 years now, and I'm slowly converting it over to make it a GT tribute car. And one of the things I have to do that is change the gauge cluster, because the 65 Mustang came with a Falcon style sweep speedometer and gauge cluster, but the GT had round gauges like the 66 did. So I've got a 65 GT bezel, which is black, and I bought the Classic Instruments gauge kit to put in there. Now, it's not exactly OEM, but they have a very OEM look, and there are some things in my car that are kind of resto mod anyway, so I think it'll fit right in. Let's get started. Well, the box is really nicely packaged, and you open it up, and the first thing that hits you, of course, are those beautiful gauges. Really nice. Fuel temperature, speedometer, volts, oil. For once, I'm going to know what's happening in my Mustang. And here's the instruction manual, which is really comprehensive, gives you a full overview of what you need to do. Then there's a box of sending units, and inside are the pieces that go into the transmission, and then the pulse modulator, or whatever you call it, the thing that converts mechanical signals into electronic signals, because the speedometer is electronic, and that's the cable that carries the signals to the speedometer. You also have a calibration button because it needs to be calibrated after it goes into the car. Here's the speedometer drive unit, which is the mechanical interface. Then there's a bunch of nuts and brackets as you need them. And then there are the senders for the oil pressure and the coolant temperature. For the gas level, it uses the existing sender that should already be in your Mustang. And then there are these aluminum brackets, which are what you use to connect modern gauges to a classic instrument bezel. This one's a GT from 1965. So I have my bezel and I have my adapter plates with some hardware inside. And there are the gauges. The first thing in the instructions is to snip this little pin. So I'll be taking that out. And now we'll just place the gauges. I want the fuel gauge where it was before in the stock cluster, which was all the way to the left, temperature all the way to the right. Oil I'm going to put next to temperature, and volts, which is a bonus gauge you didn't have before, I'm going to put next to gas, and the speedo, of course, in the center. You can arrange them any way you like. Then you drop this adapter plate. It only goes one way. You'll see there's notches on the side. We have screws of different sizes here. The longer screws secure the top part with spacers like this, and the shorter screws secure the bottom part. Now we'll take this other panel, and be careful because this only goes one way. You can tell when it lines up. So we'll put these spacers in and use the longer screws to get it going, and the shorter screw on this side. And we'll work our way down the way. All right, now that these are all in, see the gauges are there, but they're moving inside the bezel. Well, the way we're gonna prevent that from happening is with these machine screws that get put into these other spots, and what they're gonna do is create pressure between the plates to hold the gauges in place. Pretty ingenious. Now we're going to tighten these down to the point where they just about touch the other plate. See, it's getting there. Okay, so now all of these screws are almost touching the other adapter plate. I'm going to spin it over and get all the gauges to be straight. Just rotate them so that they're not crooked. And once they're all in position, we'll flip it back over and tighten everything down. So we tighten these screws just until the gauges don't move. It seems like that's pretty good, pretty secure. Flip it over and make sure that everything still is straight. Looking really good. And now we take the turn signal indicators. Now notice that these have these little clips on both sides, so they'll only go one way into the hole there. And it's going to be sideways like this. And then we use these smaller screws to hold it down inside there. Okay, now it's time to start wiring it up. Got to make a few harnesses, 3 actually. One which will connect all the I terminals on the gauges. That's going to be power. Then another to connect all the grounds, and a third one which will connect all of the gauge illumination power together. Now there's a multi-plug that plugs into the speedometer, and that has a pigtail that comes out of it with a lot of different colored wires. Each has a destination, so that's what you're tying into. And now it's time to get under the car. We'll trace the speedo cable to the transmission. You can see mine's got some gunk from a previous owner. I will take a ratchet and take this bolt out and then pull the speedo drive gear out. You can see it there, that plastic drive gear, and it's held in place with a clip that you use a screwdriver to just pry it off a little bit. It's not on there too tight. You just gently pull it off so it doesn't shoot across the room, and then remove the speedo drive gear. Then you'll be taking this speedo drive gear and putting it onto the new Classic Instruments drive gear. Slips right on, and use the same C-clip to secure it. Then you just put the assembly back into the transmission and be sure to push securely so the O-ring seats, and align the hole, and then all you have to do is put the bolt back in and get it nice and tight. This is what converts the mechanical signal into an electronic signal, and once that's in place, all you have to do is take the wire and connect that in, then route the wire, making sure you avoid exhaust and anything hot, and secure it with cable ties. Then just follow the same route as the original speedo cable up to the instrument cluster. Before we start hooking up anything electrical, you want to take the negative terminal of the battery off first. And to protect the interior, it's really important to put a towel on the steering column before you start taking the gauge cluster out, because as it tips forward, you'll see that it can easily hit the steering column and chip it. Now that the gauge cluster is tipped forward, you can see everything will have to disconnect. It's really important to make sure that everything is labeled before you pull things off so that you know exactly where things go. The hardest part is probably disconnecting the original speedo cable because it's really tight back there. All right, now that it's free, pull it out. And there's the mess of 1965 wiring. Now the one that feeds 12 volts is this one that goes to the regulator, the voltage regulator, the 1965 one. It's female, and that's what we're going to plug into to get our power. The alternator light will need to just be left dangling. There isn't a spot for it on the new bezel, but this bulb is actually important in the series here for the car to actually work, so you got to leave it just dangling. Now when you look at the original Falcon style sweep speedo gauge, you can see that it's flat down here, just like the opening in the dash. But the new gauge is rounded, and on the bottom there's a part that will need to be cut out of the dash so that the new bezel will fit. So what I'm going to do here is lay the bezel in and just use a pencil to mark the little bit of metal that I'm going to have to remove to get this cluster to fit in. It's just a little bit, and it's only on the bottom. I just have to clean this up a little bit. The way I did it was I used a Dremel with a cut wheel, and I made several straight cuts in, and then came in from an angle here and just cut those little straight cuts off. And then I'm going to go in and just file this down, make it smooth. And now the moment of truth. Let's see if this will go in. And it does. Nice. The instructions call for a separate ground. So the old cluster would ground through the screws here, and that's probably not great. So what I did is I found a new ground point in here. That's the chassis, or at least connects to the chassis. And then I just put a spade on here, so I'll be able to plug it right in. For the instrument illumination, I really don't want to cut into the harnesses. I'll leave these things intact and just use these taps. Since my car is a 1965, it only has one turn signal bulb, but the 66 cluster, which I'm emulating with this GT package, is going to have right and left indicators, like most normal cars. So what we're going to do is separate these out. The white with blue stripe is the right turn signal indicator, and the green one here is the left turn signal indicator. I really want to keep cutting wires down to a minimum because one day I may want to take it back to stock, or maybe another owner somewhere down the line might want to. So I've traced the wires and I'm going to use them where I can to connect the senders to the gauges. Also with the Speedo cable, I'm leaving the cable in place but just tying it up under the car because this new system uses an electronic pulse. It doesn't require a cable that spins around. The cable will still stay there and it'll just be tucked out of the way. And if one day you want to change it back, maybe you'll be the next owner of the car, you'll know how to do it. The senders just replace the ones that are originally in the car, and they come with reducers in case you have to adapt the size. This one is for the water temperature, and I've used the original wire to connect to that. So I've got this extender for the oil sender that came with the car. So now I just need to get this reducer into the block, and then I'll take the sender and put the sender in. Okay, well I have everything wired up. I have a common power, common ground. I've got Spade terminals on all of the pieces that are going to connect into the speedometer gauge part. It's a lot of wiring, I'm not gonna lie, but I think it'll work out just great. So everything's all connected, and let's see if it works. Yep, the lights come on, and let's click the high beams. Yep, that works. Right signal and left signal. Looks like we're in business. Once everything is installed, you need to calibrate the speedometer, and there are a bunch of different ways that you can do that depending upon your setup. So you just got to check this manual to calibrate it. For the first time ever, I now know how much gas I have, how many volts I'm running, what the temperature is, and what the oil pressure is. That's it. We're done. It looks great, and the total time start to finish was about 8 hours. Hardest part of the job, which really wasn't even that hard, but it was tedious, and that's doing the wiring. There are a lot of connections that need to be made. I like to put Spade connectors on things to make them removable, so that probably doubled the work. You don't have to do that, but I think it's worth it. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. It takes a lot longer to do this kind of work while I'm shooting videos, so it's nice to know that you're liking them. Please give it the thumbs up. And also leave a comment. I like to get back to you as quick as I can. Thanks a lot, be safe, and enjoy.